fonder.
Who's this guy?
Hey!
What? What?
I was going to say it hasn't been that long, but I think it's 4 weeks today.
Oh, and it's going to be even longer.
Yeah.
It's going to be at least...
Time to go to Cleveland, baby.
Yeah, at least 2 more games. Maybe not many more than that, but at least 2 more games.
Yeah, at least 2 more, Tom.
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Serena withdraws. Aaron Rodgers wants a lot, and the NBA could add challenge flags. But we begin today with the Golden State Warriors cruising past the Cleveland Cavaliers last night behind a barrage of threes, most notably Steph Curry's finals record of 9. LeBron has been down 0-2 before, as recently as the last series with Boston. Wilbon, do you expect the Cavs to do it again and win 2 at home?
Tony, do it again, yes, means win 2 at home. I don't expect that. I can certainly see it happening. I'm not going to bet against it, but I don't necessarily see it. I see them getting game 3. But, Tony, and you and I talked about this on your radio show this morning, when the Warriors are fully engaged and they have their big 3 play the way they did yesterday, and of course, meaning Curry, Durant, and Klay Thompson on a bum ankle, 8 for 13 in 34 minutes. Tony, there's nobody in today's game that can beat them. And look, LeBron can get 58 and 8, 52, 10, and 12. It doesn't matter. If the Warriors play like that, they're going to get 1 game in Cleveland as well, but there's nobody in today's game that can beat them when those guys are rolling.
For those of you looking for my radio show and not being able to find it, it is a podcast. Wilbon has been a guest on it over 100 times and should know that by now. This series is over. You can fill in the number 4, 5, 6, whatever you want. One team is vastly superior to the other. Cleveland's chance of winning this series went out when J.R. Smith did one of the dumbest things in the history of basketball and still hasn't owned it to this point because he didn't know what the score was. That was the chance, Mike, and it's gone now.
It was.
Because let's look at this realistically. Golden State is as good this year, almost, if not as good as they were last year, and Cleveland is missing Kyrie Irving. I mean, there's no balance here. Golden State is not Boston, not Toronto. No, they're not. Golden State playing at 85% efficiency is way better than. I love LeBron James. You know that. Got him into the finals, but I don't see it.
So you still sound like you think sweep. I think there's no way there's going to be a sweep. But you're entertaining this, aren't you?
Oh, I think I'm in the Jeff Van Gundy camp that one team is a lot better than the other. I'm not saying there will be a sweep, but I cannot imagine this going the distance. And they just went the distance with Boston. Like they closed it.
And Houston just took Golden State the distance, even though they had to play 2 of those games without their best player, Chris Paul.
Yeah.
But you're right, Tony. One team is a lot better than the other right now.
They just
you said 85%. Tony, what happens when they go 92, 94% like last night?
Then they win by 20. They win by 20, and it's no disgrace for Cleveland.
No, it isn't.
It's just,
The NBA playoffs could look a little bit different the next time around, especially in the context of the league dealing with officiating disputes. The NBA appears ready to seriously consider adopting the concept of coaches challenging calls made on the floor, which would put the NBA with the NFL, Major League Baseball, and the NHL in using such a system. Kiki Vanderway told SiriusXM NBA Radio that the league would experiment with such challenges as soon as next month in Summer League. Tone, do you like this idea?
I mean, my initial reaction was I don't like it because it's going to add time to games. These challenges add time to football games. They add time to baseball games. When everybody talks about pace of play and quickening up pace of play, this slows things down. Now, but I don't, because there is some replay already. I don't know exactly what they're going to use it for, but if they use it for judgment calls, I don't know that there's any satisfaction. We can go to the most famous judgment call in the finals so far, which is the block charge with LeBron. And I've seen that 10 times, and I think it's a block. And other guys stand there and say, no, it's a charge. So I don't know how the thing is going to work. I don't.
Well, Tony, no matter how it works, it has to be better than what they've got now, where they just sort of randomly, it seems to me, every time a coach complains or a player gets up and says, he hit me in the head.
Yeah, they go to video.
They go to the table, and the games are interminable.
That's terrible.
The delays are awful. And so if you just confine it to coach's challenge, whether it's 1 in the first half, 2 in the second that's been proposed, whether it's 2 and 3, you get a finite number of challenges.
But
and you can legislate in and out what can or can't be looked at.
In the last 2 minutes. They can't do that. They can't say you used up the challenges. They're going to have to go to replay.
They do it in football. What's the difference?
I understand. They're going to have to look. If it's an out-of-bounds play, if it's a shot clock, if it's something that where it's clear there's a right and a wrong, that's fine. If there's traveling, which they never call anyway, but when you get into the judgment calls, I don't know that there's a satisfaction level.
Tony,
so you don't have it at all.
They got to get rid of the rule that allows that LeBron call to be challenged. It's not that they didn't get it right. I thought they got it right. You can't have it. It's like calling pass interference because of replay because you were checking somebody's feet and you put the ball at the one.
I just don't want to add. I just don't want to add a lot of time. I mean, that's what no sport wants.
That might reduce the time.
Well, if that happens, fine.
Yeah.
We have Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight right here where I'm sitting in the capital of the United States of America. The Washington Capitals are looking to take a 3-1 lead over the Vegas Golden Knights. Teams that take a 3-1 lead in the final have won 31 straight cups. Wilbon, if the Caps win tonight, isn't this over?
You can ask that about the Montreal Canadiens. You can ask it about the Los Angeles Kings. You can ask it about, any number of teams lately, the Bruins, the Blackhawks. These teams have won. They've come back, by the way, in earlier rounds. I know the Blackhawks did from 3-1 down.
Right.
Tony, you can't say that about the Capitals. They have not earned the benefit of the doubt. There's no such extra credit which is extended to them. No, 3-1, no. They have to be skating around the ice with Lord Stanley's Cup before I believe it, and I hope it happens, and I know you do too.
Okay, I think they're going to win tonight. I think they're going to win 4 in a row, actually. I think they're the better team, and there's a significant thing to talk about here. And let's use your analogy of past worthy champions. When they look across at the Vegas Golden Knights, they don't see anything that scares them. There's no pedigree. They're not Detroit. They're not Pittsburgh. They're not Chicago. They don't have a lot of rings to flash because last year, all the guys on the ice were subs on another team in the league.
Yeah,
they got nothing. So this is the one time where the Capitals cannot shake in their shoes because there's nobody really in front of them. Fleury is a great goalie. Hasn't been great so far. Hope he's been as good, if not better so far. And Ovechkin's the best guy on the ice. Tony, he's the best guy out there.
You've watched enough NHL hockey. You covered enough.
Yeah.
We were both doing that back in the 80s and early 90s. We've seen enough to know how quickly a series can switch.
Yes, sure.
On the goaltender alone.
Yes, on the goalie.
Okay,
yes.
We've seen, and what team do we know from firsthand experience has fallen prey to that more than any other team in the league?
The Washington Capitals, and yet,
thank you.
And yet I've picked them in each series, and I'm picking them again.
Tony, I'm hoping I ain't picking.
And by the way, on the big screens tonight, at Chatter, Friendship Heights gone down.
God. Are you paying for that ad? Are you
sort of, kind of.
Yeah.
Psychic.
Breaking news from Paris. Serena Williams has withdrawn from the French Open because of a
breaking news.
Injury.
This happened at 9 this morning.
Hindered her ability to serve. Williams, who returned to the competition after giving birth nearly 6 months ago, was unseeded at Roland Garros, but had won her first 3 matches and was scheduled to play 28th seed Maria Sharapova, which would have been the women's match of the tournament. Serena still has to have an MRI to learn the extent of this damage. Tone, 2 questions. Sound like Larry King.
Yep.
Does this count as a win for Sharapova in your eyes? And what does this mean for Serena and the tour going forward?
Breaking news, Yankees signed Giancarlo Stanton. That happened almost as long ago as Serena Williams this morning.
Not exactly.
Look, Sharapova cannot claim this as a win. No. This is a withdrawal. If they were out on the court, if they had started, if Sharapova were winning, maybe then she could claim it, but she can't claim this. In terms of
18 straight.
Yeah, in terms of long distance here, we have Wimbledon coming up in about 3.5 or 4 weeks.
3 weeks.
That's the biggest tournament of the year. If you've got a torn muscle, I don't know that that's enough time. You can't serve now. I don't know that is not. And I don't know that Serena would have won it anyway. She's 36 years old. She's coming back from having a baby and blood clotting issues that she talks about openly. So I don't know. But this doesn't strike me, Mike, as good news for Serena Williams heading into Wimbledon.
Look, Tony, you know what? In terms of tennis, there's no bad news for Serena Williams. All right, Serena Williams in the very short list, I'd say at the top of the very short list, as the greatest player of all time in her sport. So there's no bad news. There's no more bad news for her. She's already had a complete career, which is phenomenal in the history of American sports. There's bad news for this tour, okay? Because other than Sharapova, who's ranked #1 right now in women's tennis? You tell me.
No idea. I have no idea.
Okay, so we have no idea about a sport that you and I, once again, have paid a lot of attention to in our adult lives.
Yeah.
It's the tour that's in peril, not Serena.
No, her place in history is assured.
Secure,
But, you know, as long as she's out there playing, you'd like to see her win. You'd like to see her healthy. So, according to NFL.com, Aaron Rodgers wants to be the highest-paid quarterback in the NFL. And he wants to be the highest-paid quarterback for the rest of his career. Specifically, get this, Mike, Rodgers wants a clause in his contract that will allow him to walk away from Green Bay anytime another quarterback makes more money than him. Wilman, do you think Rodgers should get what he wants?
I'm not going to deal with should. We're going to deal with reality here. He's not going to get what he wants because the Packers don't have to do that. No NFL team has to do that. And Rodgers, as great as he is, and he's certainly my favorite quarterback in this league now for, I don't know, almost 10 years, Tony, he has no leverage. No football player has that kind of leverage. Tom Brady doesn't have the leverage to walk in and say, give me what I want or I'll walk. They don't. Football players don't have that, which is why so many football players, including Aaron Rodgers, and I know because I've talked to him about this, they look longingly at the NBA.
Right.
They stand there at courtside, they come to playoff games, and they say, man, I mean, can you imagine? And I know what they're imagining. It's not going to happen. I hope Aaron Rodgers breaks the bank because despite being a cheesehead, I love Aaron Rodgers. But there's no leverage, Tony, none.
So right now he is signed for 2 more years under a contract that he willingly signed. And they can franchise him if they want for 2 more years. You can ask Kirk Cousins about that, but you won't be the highest-paid quarterback if you're franchised. So you have to ask yourselves, who are the quarterbacks most deserving to be the highest-paid? Well, it's Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Those are the two. And Tom Brady doesn't care about the money.
Ben Roethlisberger, point out, has 1 more Super Bowl than Aaron Rodgers.
Understandably, but he's not as good right now as Aaron Rodgers, and even you would say that. Let's look at the people making more money right now. Let's look at the top 5. Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo, Matthew Stafford, and Derek Carr. You know what they have in common? None of them has won a Super Bowl.
Won a playoff game.
Well, I thought Cousins won 1 playoff game. I thought he did. I could be wrong.
Okay.
But they were 4 of the 5 were never in a Super Bowl. And then after that, you got Drew Brees, who won, Andrew Luck, Alex Smith, and Joe Flacco won. You know what I expect, Mike? I expect him to get a contract, making him the most highly paid quarterback in football, but no out clause. No out clause.
Tony. And then people are going to pass it. Remember about 30 years ago when Ricky Henderson became the first $3 million ball player? And in like February,
not Ricky.
January, by the time they got to spring training, he was down 30.
Let's look this up. I thought it was Kirby Puckett.
No, it was Ricky Henderson.
Let's look that up. Let's take a break while we look it up. Coming up, does Tiger have real reason for optimism after finishing tied for 23rd?
23rd? Optimism?
Yeah.
Should an MMA fighter be embarrassed that his over-the-top move backfired?
Do we have to
I think it was Ricky. I think Ricky was the guy, Tony.
Puckett. Let's
Western Union.
It's mail time where our producers punt their duties over to you. Let me see what's first.
Mail time!
All 4 will be read to you, Mike. Tiger Woods finished tied for 23rd, but did he convince you he could win the U.S. Open?
No, Tony. I mean, despite those great back-to-back rounds on Friday and Saturday, no. Because Tiger couldn't putt the whole tournament, and particularly yesterday when there was a chance. Tiger probably cost himself, I don't know, 2-3 strokes at least on Saturday. And then there were putts yesterday. He couldn't hit the hole from 7 feet. It's unbelievable to me. Tony, quite the opposite. He sort of convinced me that he can't win the U.S. Open.
He was
because
in
he can't close. He can't finish. So how can you win the U.S. Open without that?
This is the right point. At the end of number 15 on Saturday, he was briefly in the lead.
In the lead,
In the next 21 holes that he played, 3 Saturday and 18 on Sunday, he was +2.
With great iron play. Great iron play,
he hit the ball great. He hit the ball great. I was really lucky last year. I got to play Shinnecock, and it's gorgeous. Par 70, it's beautiful. The last time he played it, maybe the only time in the Open, he was T17, so I don't know.
Next letter.
It doesn't look good.
It's really beautiful.
Too bad.
The Phillies have scored 1 run in 29 innings, and your boy Jake Arrieta is furious. Do you think he's pointing the finger at manager Gabe Kapler?
Of course he is. And by the way, he drove in that run with a solo home run. But, Tony, Of course he's throwing the manager under the bus. He keeps talking about defensive switches or lack thereof at a time when everybody goes crazy over defensive switches. And also, they already booed the manager's brains out in Philly. And, yes, Arrieta's blaming everybody. It's just like a big rant. He blamed the shortstop for not flipping to second base for a fielder's choice, even though that play was not assured. So Arrieta's angry because he's not a Cub. That's what that amounts to.
Well, it's a little disingenuous for Arrieta because he came from a team where Joe Madden put defensive shifts on all the time. If I were Jake Arrieta, I'd be blaming the hitters in my lineup who are not supporting me at all, instead of blaming everybody in the field. But he's your account because he's.
Who does he blame for giving up that home run that lost the game yesterday? Oh, wait.
Does Javi Baez deserve full credit for his steal of home?
No, not full credit. No, he and Contreras worked that. Javi Baez cooked this one up, apparently. But, Tony, you have to consider the full context. This is something that Joe Madden previously mentioned. This is what he does. Javi Baez has stolen home twice in the regular season in the last 2 seasons. And he stole it against the Dodgers in the playoffs before that on the way to the World Series when it was much harder, when it was all on him. But no, he cooked this up, but Contreras had to be a partner in it, like pick and roll, baby, so it worked for both of them, mostly for Javi.
So it's a great steal. I mean, the bottom line is it is a great steal.
Yes.
If they were going to lure the pitcher to throw to first base, it's a great steal. My discomfort over this story is that we've now turned into Chicago Cubs land. We've talked about Arrieta. We've talked about Baez. He used to be a Cub.
He's on I-95.
So I assume the next thing is a Kyle Schwarber retrospective.
And you know what else?
Let's
Javi
see.
Baez is the most exciting player in baseball, defensively, offensively. Javi Baez.
Stop. Should Jared Brooks be talking trash after knocking himself out in an MMA fight?
No, Tony. And, of course, he goes up to do some. In pro wrestling, didn't we used to call this a suplex or something like that back when you and I were watching that silliness? And so you fall on your own head and knock yourself out. You scored an own goal. But the own goal still counts. If that's the only goal, your team still loses. So you knock yourself out. You tap out. Get out. Shut up.
So I need to understand this. This guy who was on the verge of winning this fight pulled some sort of move that resulted in him knocking himself out and losing a fight. A stupid move that we might call the JR move at that particular point in time. And then he goes on social media and he attacks the guy who beat him. Now, my feeling is you can go on social media and say whatever you want, but you lost.
You lost.
You lost.
Own goal
Stop.
is the closest analogy I can come up with.
Enough email. Let's take one last break. Still to come, are the Warriors right to be upset at Kendrick Perkins for not moving his legs last night?
And should anyone really be surprised that Rob Gronkowski plans to show up at minicamp tomorrow?
How did Kendrick Perkins get in this show? Has he played in the last 2 years? Has he played?
Yeah.
Did he play this year?
No. Not that much.
Well, happy time, people. Happy 24th birthday, Jesse James. The Steelers tight end was involved in one of those controversial what is a catch and what is not a catch calls last season. His was ruled not a catch when he fell to the ground and the ball dislodged. Under the new rules, James would have had a touchdown because he had possession of the ball as he crossed the goal line and because everybody knows that's a touchdown. And now the NFL does too.
Tony, I'm not optimistic this is going to be cleared up. I think there's going to be more controversy involving this, and there just shouldn't be.
Not so happy anniversary to Sammy Sosa. Around this day 15 years ago, you were ejected from a game after you shattered your bat in the first inning, exposing a hollowed-out barrel and cork all over the infield. I remember this well because the Cubs manager at the time, Dusty Baker, appealed to people to wait until all the evidence was in. All the evidence was in. It was in the infield. Major League Baseball suspended Sosa for 8 games, later reduced it by 1. Wilbon, defend your boy.
I can't, Tony, but it's starting to bother me a little bit, annoy me, that he is just, there's no relationship between him, the Cubs, the city of Chicago. There should be something. He was too great a player, even with these controversies.
Happy trails, Clay Matthews. The Green Bay Glam linebacker was pitching in an annual charity softball game when he took a line drive right in the schnoz.
Schmack!
Turns out his nose is broken and he will need surgery this week. The injury is not expected to hamper his preparation for or his ability to play football this year.
Tony, you don't really see professional athletes get hurt often in charity that way.
Here we go. Omission. Simone Halep, the #1 player in the world. Error. Kirk Cousins has never won a playoff. And clarification, Kirby Puckett was the first baseball player to make $3 million per year by 6 days over Ricky Henderson. Quickly to the big finish.
Let's do it.
Several Warriors were upset that Kendrick Perkins didn't move his legs or feet for Steph Curry last night, saying it was a dangerous play. Valid?
Tony, I don't know what the custom is on that team-to-team, league-to-league. Buddy went 5 for 5. He went crazy shooting after that. Gronk says he's going to attend mandatory minicamp. Says he can't wait for everybody to see his erotic arms and what they can do. What?
Erotic arms, what? The Mariners 14-5 since Robbie Cano got suspended. First place in the AL West. You impressed?
Ahead of the Astros, yet Liverpool goaltender who made those mistakes in Champion League, Tony, had a concussion. Does that change your opinion?
Yeah, they should have concussion protocol. Last one, Auburn extended Bruce Pearl. Are you surprised?
I'm not surprised at anything involving Bruce Pearl. Nothing.
Out of time. Try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knucklehead. You can get the podcast or the app on Apple Podcasts.
Marty West shot his age. Shout out.